Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So what it would be kind of ideal is if we had like, his little desk tables here and then 1 to 3 spots down, like downstage of it a little bit. Now, I don't know if that works with y'all, but then, if you were giving me a center special only for myself, I would sort of say, well, that would be like sort of his desk light. We'd have like A, B, C, D, and then E, of course, would just be the general wash.
Sure.
If we have to, we can just use the general wash instead of A, if that works. Like if A doesn't quite catch him. But there's a lot of the play, we usually, when we've workshopped it in the past, there's a distinction between when he's at his table and when he sort of comes down here to tell his story.
Got it. Okay.
So in a perfect world, those would be the sort of 5 cues I'd want to play with. So I don't know, but first of all, does that seem doable? Does that seem like stuff you've got?
It is. I think if you were willing to bring A down stage a little bit, I'm
Sure.
thinking about the fact that 2 of the plays have screens, and that takes the depth away, so that because they also don't want to be their heads don't want to be showing on the screen, so the best light is up just like somewhere midway between C and A.
Okay.
There is, it's really kind of cool how close he can be to the audience, and it really works really beautifully in this.
Okay.
We can make this work. We can make this work.
If we don't, then ideally we don't have to refocus it, that day. But if we knew about it, actually we would, because he's first on that day.
Okay. Well, I also think we can, so basically what I'm hearing is that you could give me this and it's just more downstage. Everything's a little bit more downstage.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we can, what you got here, we can manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to give it to the technical director there, and he can make it happen.
Okay, well, you can let me know, but then let me know once you talk to him, and then what I'm gonna do is, after we want to meet once or twice more, and then I'm just gonna send you a copy of the script with all of these in red, and then maybe just by email we can settle, and I'll make sure which letter's which, and then that way, if I can rehearse him right, then you don't even really need a tech with him. You just do a wet tech run through if you know which one to.
Yeah.
We're going to keep them as simple as possible. I was going to tell you if we have to do lights up and lights down, we'll live with that.
No, we can.
Yeah,
no.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, then this is very close to what we've built in the past and are planning to do again. So this should be super easy to do. And he's a smart fella. So if a little mistake gets made in the first show, he'll jump to his light.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Is there any sound cues of any sort?
There are Kieran already, given the state has kind of sort of written him out of the inner scene parts as much as possible. There are a few. I'll send you. Are you going to call it? Will you call it on QLab?
Yeah, the stage manager will. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and just build the QLab and send you the file and send it all in a folder. The only issue then, and I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. There's just times where in the middle of a scene, he's like, this song was playing, and then he kind of, sachets a little bit. The only real issue I would see would be length of fade, although we're probably going to be able to, Zach and I can probably deal with that part, and just the relative volume. So as long as so it might just be the kind of thing where your sound person just knows that I might have to play that fader if it's a little too loud on the first show and you don't have time to get to it. But in everything, I'm also going to change it from when we've done it in the past and just try to have the sound come in, give us the sense of it, and then go back down.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
Do you have a sophisticated QLab? Latest.
I think so. I'm sorry, not what did you say?
The not free version.
I do not have the not free. No, but the versions are all the same. When you pay, you just have access to more things.
Yeah. I really do we have an issue with, but you'll send it to us ahead of time. We'll be able to.
Yeah, I'll send it to Tim because he's got he's in a theater, so it's a more sophisticated QLab.
We just found, didn't we find that when we gave him something done with like a free version.
Yeah, he just
that was a
rebuilt it.
concern.
You know,
He
he
had
just
to rebuild it. So-
he just dragged and rebuilt it very quickly.
Stephen, you might be able to have a closer to the date, Stephen. You might be able to have a chat to Tim.
Yeah, we can do that if we need to.
That's it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so we'll get it ahead of time and we'll see.
Mhm.
That'll work.
My guess is you just probably sent him a file from an earlier version. So I'm almost positive the QLab software is the same. You just buy a license that lets you do extra
Well,
stuff.
you know, every actor comes in with their show, and some of them have more sophisticated stuff than others. One
Yeah.
girl came in the day of, brought files in that were all corrupted. And we had to.
That was with the big festival.
We
wasn't
had
it?
to completely rebuild something like within seconds. It was insane.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I've been there a time or two.
Yeah.
Those are the old days when we had like 16, 20 people, and we don't do that anymore.
Okay. So that sounds good. All right, then we're good there.
Yay.
So good. So in other words, I'll send you everything we need. I'm glad if that light situation works, and I think that should be fine, easy to notate. So I'll get you that at least like a week or so in advance if that works for you. And then you can let me know if there's questions. And otherwise, y'all should feel free to just rock and roll, have it ready for him to step right into.
Okay,
Excellent.
perfect.
And we will, as we find furniture, we'll send you pictures.
Beautiful.
So that
Giddy
works.
up.
We'll give you
Yeah.
some.
Annie and Blake, can I just ask, not on the Friday, that'll be busy enough, but I'm just wondering if there might be a student in the college or somebody who could just do a video of the show.
I can do it.
Of just a basic basic one, or even the Saturday, Blake, when there's a bit less stress and it's one show in. But I don't want that to be a hassle, and
Of course.
it'd be just nice to have a video recording, and
I agree.
Find to pay a fee for it.
And maybe we should do it Friday, the next night.
I think the second or third show would be better, don't you think, Stephen?
We'll find his best audience too.
On the Saturday.
It'll be good. And yeah, I've had really great success with using my phone. It's really wonderful. I have sophisticated cameras. I have a Blackmagic 4K, and I can't make it work just for this kind of simple thing. It doesn't want to. So great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yay.
So
do that with all of them.
So let's talk about talking to you now is if we want to use any of this information for promotion.
Yeah.
So Kieran and you sit in a position where I can see you better.
Yeah, so I'm going to go down a little bit.
There you go.
Thanks.
And if it just had a front light on you, it'd be great. Do you have a lamp that you can put on your face?
No, I haven't got a lamp. Let me see.
What happens if you completely close?
I'll turn the other way. I'm going to turn the other way.
Oh, yes.
There,
Oh,
perfect. That's it. That's what you needed.
Duh.
That'll be better.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Now I
That'll
can
be
see you.
I'm sure I'm not getting better looking. Okay.
we've seen your mug before.
How's that?
That's great.
That's
And why don't you
great.
take your glasses off because you're glaring in the, there you go. That's much better. All right.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're good.
all right.
So yes, I can explain a little bit about the whole origins of this
So,
collaboration.
Stephen, it's so good to have you with us.
Yes.
And we want to talk a little about the play. Kieran, tell us about the play.
Well, the youthful adventures of Damon Dukirk goes back a long way. It's really it's an 8-part episodic monologue about a peripatetic poet who at 33 feels that he's completely washed up, and he revives somewhat in an obscure German town, and then goes on some very hectic, catastrophic, mad adventures in the name of kind of art and indulgence and maybe even women finding at certain points. So it's kind of a very literary monologue, which hopefully people will find very, very funny. And it goes back a long way. The first part of it was actually written almost 20 years ago, and I would write just kind of one episode a year. And so small parts of it would get performed in Australia. And I had the whole thing really by about 2009, 2010, and so some parts of it were being performed in Australia. And then by about 2015, I started sending it to America. And a New York artist by the name of Alison Plamondon put me in touch with Zach. And Zach started performing parts 1 and 2 really at some small New York festivals around 2015 and 2016. And then Zach and Stephen had worked closely together on other productions. And so it was great to bring Stephen in as a director. And in more recent times, the play, we did the Marsh International Solo Festival through the pandemic in 2020, and then it did the One Festival in New York last year, but it's only ever gone to, it's never gone past part 3. And I'm really excited about the SaraSolo Festival because we're going to get the full Dukirk after all this time. It's going all the way. And, you know, it's a long way from Melbourne, Australia.
I love it.
Sarasota, Florida. Pity I wasn't in Melbourne, Florida. That would have been good.
That would have been
Really.
Yeah, but I'm really excited to finally see the work have a full production, and Stephen and Zach do a really, really wonderful job with it, and they're very, very sensitive.
Where did the idea come from?
Look, I think the idea was there's some autobiography there in terms of the not so much the situational aspects that develop in the play, but more the fact that in my 20s, I didn't write plays at all. I was actually, I just wrote poems really, and I got a reasonable way. But I got to about 30 and I kind of hit a brick wall with poetry, and I couldn't quite explain it. And then as a sort of a way out of how do I keep writing, I thought I'll try some monologues. So I did have this feeling in my early 30s that I was kind of washed up and sort of semi-retired. So the first part of it has that kind of feeling, but then it kind of goes into much more sort of fantastical, picaresque.
This is what I love about the characterization, because it feels like we should know him. It feels like in the literary world, because I think that you must borrow from your own, what is probably distinctive personality, because he's wonderfully funny and wonderfully cagey, wonderfully his perspective on life seems to be that kind of, I'll get through it and let me do this and what's going on here. To me, it's what endeared me to what I got to read the first time was it's sort of candid nature, his way of going through everything, and his response, and maybe, and yeah, just his character. So I'm assuring you that it reads so beautifully, delightfully in that way. I have a question, Stephen. I have a question for you about directing solo. We always talk about this with all of our audiences, for years, because we have had to train audiences in a way, or at least educate them into how to see a solo work, because the audience is very exceptional in that sense. They can't really sit back. But we also, since Annie and I both direct solo, we find it fascinating what directors talk about when they're dealing with a solo piece.
Just one person. Yeah.
What is that like for you?
Yeah, that's a important question to answer if you're working on a one-person show, I think. So on one hand, like I could say that everything I would answer that we talk about and work on are the same to-do list that you have in a more full production. But I think, and in particular, like rhythm and dynamism are the two things that, of course, those matter, no matter if you've got a huge ensemble musical or a one-person show. The difference is merely that, like, your deck of cards is a lot smaller. In fact, you just have the one card for a one-person show. So finding ways to make the work dynamic and feel like it's got rhythm and color without it's going into sort of stagey tropes is probably the biggest challenge, because I think that a lot of us, our first instincts for how do I keep this dynamic, how do I keep it interesting, is like, oh, just walk down stage center and there you are. But I mean, I think even an audience untrained knows when something's inauthentic in that way. So that's a lot of the conversation. But then the flip side of that is also just remembering that sometimes the text is doing it for you. And one of the reasons people enjoy one-person shows, or don't, quite frankly, is because like you do, as you say, like have to listen more, right? You do have to lean forward. And if you're not listening, like there's only so much you can do with one instrument. So so sometimes it's a reminder of like, oh, maybe we don't have to be dynamic, and maybe we should lean into the reality that this is not just about the text, but that the text is going to do that for us. So just always playing that line and deciding like, is it interesting? Is it interesting? Is it changing for the audience? The difficulty is that it just gets hard when you hear that long piece of text 4 times in a row to try to get out of yourself and be like, wait, what is the first time audience gonna see? It's a lot easier with a lot of people on stage because panache is easier to notice when you have some good blocking. So that's sort of the challenge, I'd say.
Someone who also performs a lot of solo and then also directs it. For me, the audience is your other character. So I think that's why it's hard for an audience. All of a sudden the audience realize, oh, I'm in the play. Somehow I'm in the play in some way. And now I have to work. And for a lot of us, that's delicious fun. And some people, it takes them off guard. But you do, they're your other character in some way, even with a fourth wall up. So it's I find that interesting and fun. Yeah. Tell me about working on this particular play and discovering this character.
Yeah, sure. Well, we've had the benefit, as Kieran said, of getting to work on it over time, and I get along famously with Zach, so we have a lot of fun working on it together. Well, first of all, it's just fun. The sort of fantasy world of where like people care about the poet is really fun for us. We love the sort of optimism of like poetry's going to change the world, which is Kieran's, which I think is one thing I love about Dukirk. What I really like about, I think Candide, like you mentioned, is really interesting comparison, both because it's so picaresque, as Kieran said, Dukirk moves to different places, but like, if we were to use that, I forget who the sort of cynic in Candide is, but Dukirk is both Candide himself, the pure innocent, and he's the cynic. And as artists, I think we understand like, oh, this guy seems like he's a miserable SOB. Oh, but boy, he's actually just got a bleeding heart and wants to be loved. And those two sides of him are both so strong that it's just really fun to modulate that and figure out when are you gonna be like a mean fella and when are you gonna be the sweet fella, and those switch a lot in the play, or there's potential for finding a lot of that change. So we have a lot of fun sort of navigating that, both having fun with the text and what entertains us in that regard.
Excellent. Okay. I can't wait to meet Zach. I hope we get a chance to have an interview with him because he sounds delightful.
I think he'd like that, and that would be great if you're able to do that. Yeah, because Dukirk's caught between a real sense of youthful idealism, but also he gets caught by being hedonistic, and it's that kind of thing I think now, which I can only see retrospectively, and I couldn't have maybe talked about this when I wrote some of it, is that it's kind of like that artist who eventually straightens up. And what I mean by that is if you took someone like Nick Cave, who produced a hell of a lot of work, drug affected through the 80s, and then eventually, not that Dukirk's in any way into the hard drug thing, but it's like they get a lot of work done, but then it kind of sort of straightens up into a more careerist, orderly slant. And I think ultimately we're kind of left with this idea with Dukirk that he will continue on and it will eventually kind of straighten up, but not right away. maybe in his 40s and 50s.
It's time.
It's time. Yeah.
Yay. Well, we're looking forward to, and Stephen, I wish you could come down here. And Kieran, I wish you could come to Florida. Because the weather is fantastic right now.
Me too.
We're wearing shorts already. With a lovely evening breeze. We had ice cream outside. It's very lovely.
Wow.
I sent I sent Zach a very politically incorrect Johnny Cougar film clip from 1979, Woo Baby Living in Miami. You probably know the song. I said, that's what you're going to be like on the Sunday after the show, Zach. And if you look at that film clip of 1979, you think, whoa, how did they get away with that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I have to see that.
Okay. Well.
Oh, good.
Stephen, I'm going to be in New York next week.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm performing at 54 Below for a jazz thing. And then I was asked to stay over and do something on a Monday night, which just got canceled. So I'm going to be sitting around the city. So I might ring you up and say, hey, want to have a call?
Let's see. Yeah,
Right.
let me know what the show is.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. Okay.
That's great.
Do you have anything else you want to ask them, my darling?
No.
Do you have anything to ask us?
No, thanks a lot, Annie. But we're really looking forward to it. And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we are too. Okay. Thanks so much. And don't hesitate to contact us, Stephen. Okay. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks
Be
a
well,
lot,
y'all.
Steve.
Good night.
Thanks a lot.